Jane McCarthy, Director of Outreach and Engagement for the school. And for our first lab, we will meet with members of the ArtSci Center, a collaborative research initiative between UCLA's Design Media Arts Department and the California Nanosystems Institute. The ArtSci Center is also home to the ArtSci Collective, which is an international group of researchers and creatives. And I believe today we have members from Austria, Italy, Korea, New Zealand, Colombia, Spain, and I might be missing a few countries, but we'll hear from everyone later today. The ArtSci Center is led by Dr. Victoria Vesna, a media artist and professor in the Design Media Arts Department. Her work can be defined as experimental creative research that resides between disciplines and technologies. With her installations, she explores how communication technologies affect collective behavior and how perceptions of identity shift in relation to scientific innovation. I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Vesna to lead us in this conversation. And as we go through, attendees, panelists, please put any questions in the chat box. And then at the end, it would be really great for everyone just to start answering those questions. But as we go along, please be part of the conversation. So Dr. Vesna, I will turn it over to you.
Hi, everybody. And you see this big smile on my face because I'm seeing so many of my friends who are in addition to our team that meets weekly, and we keep pumping away at connecting art and science. I decided to skip having a kind of a formal talk about
this meeting is being recorded.
This meeting is being recorded. So I decided to skip doing a typical presentation, and last minute, as most got last minute invitations, invited our friends and alliances and people who have been working with us and together for years now. The center was established in 2005. And in the beginning, it was like pulling teeth to get people to walk over to one side of the campus or the other side of the campus. So we're based in Broad Arts, where I teach in the Design Media Arts Department. And we also have a gallery and a space at the California Nanosystems Institute. It was really, really important to me to have spaces in both sides of campus, because the whole idea is that we want to connect two cultures and create a third culture. And the third culture would be that in-between space. And the in-between space is created by community. So that's what I decided to do, to actually invite people who are part of our community for a long time, some, as you will hear, and some who are brand new, who are also we're just excited to have on board. And I would like to also start by introducing some ideas of what we do as we go along, as opposed to listing it down, because we have 45 minutes, which is not a long time. And as we go along, I'll call on people who participated in particular aspects of our center. That's a delocalized center, basically. So the first thing I wanted to announce is that we're starting virtual residencies. So we had residents all along from the very beginning, because so many artists really needed access to scientific labs, and we have some of the most amazing scientific labs. And the scientific director, James Jędrzejewski, is with us. So he'll start by saying a few words of how scientists have been participating, and then we'll dip into his Pico Lab, where Sam Lilac, who's part of the collective, is actually working on a machine that's doing atomic precision manufacturing. So they're manufacturing 3D on an atomic level, which is super exciting to us artists. So Jim, would you be kind enough to say a few words about why is it important for scientists to work with artists?
Hello. Yeah, so I've been doing this art science thing for about 15 years. And I'm also really happy to see that Carlo Ventura is joining. And he is He is he's a medical doctor and a PhD in biology, and he specializes in stem cells, particularly things to do with the heart, cardiomyocytes, which I'm also interested in. And what you see in the background here, Sam will talk about, it's important because really at the fundamental level of science, there is no, I don't see a big difference between art and science. This, for instance, this machine behind is designed to make a sculpture. And we are working on making a three-dimensional molecular sculpture, which has never been done before. And its purpose, once we can make an atomically precise manufacture structure, it has many applications, maybe in particularly like things like quantum computation and the likes. But fundamentally, it's a bit like an art project. Imagine we're using a thing called nano architectonics, and architectonics is the science of architecture. The difference between the art part of architecture and the, let's say, scientific part is not so big as you might think, and my good friend and brother there, Carlo, he also has been involved in art, many different types of things to do with sound and art, as well as biology. It's part, we are not isolated sort of scientists stuck in a lab. We have a broader perspective on life. Anyway, art is really important in science. And Sam, who's going to give you a lab tour, this is a virtual background, but he has a real background, which is the actual lab. He'll tell you about things, but he is also deeply involved in art. And in the past, many of my grad students, in fact, I would say the best ones, have taken an interest in art. So is that enough, Victoria, or you want more? I can go on for hours and hours and hours.
No, we can move on to Sam. Let's go check out the Pico Lab.
Okay, great.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you and we see you. Cool.
Okay, great. I don't think I'll have audio while moving around, but as Jim mentioned, this is our STM, or scanning tunneling microscope, that we are ideally going to be using to build atomically precise structures, like sculptures, as he had said. And so I'll give you a brief tour, and then you can ask me some questions after. I don't think the mic works at the moment, but I'll give you just a quick view of the whole instrument, which is currently all under a pretty light vacuum.
That is a sculpture,
Beautiful, beautiful.
Some people think it's ugly, some think it's beautiful.
So Sam, tell us a little bit about what you're doing and then how you interact with the SciArt Collective and the SciArt program.
What I'm doing right now, nothing very exciting. I'm just shooting helium into this instrument to try and see if there's any leaks. Otherwise, ideally, we'll just have the system pumping down and baking out over the weekend to get to a really good base pressure. Jim had mentioned we're, I think, making some custom molecules. So these are some 3D printed models of them. The idea is that we can create a molecular tripod like this, and we can create some reactive head group, which can form a radical or some other donating species. And so we're going to use this initially to abstract atoms from a tip, and then we're going to sculpt a atomically perfect gold tip for STM purposes. My work with the ArtSci Collective, I've been an instructor there for, I think, 4 years now. It's a really great summer program where just artists from North Campus and scientists from South Campus get to come together and work together. And it's honestly one of the coolest programs we do. It's something I would have never been exposed to as a high schooler. So yeah, it's pretty much what
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. Thanks so much. It's so great to have you in the team, as always. And thanks for taking the time to set up.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So since Carlo Ventura was mentioned, I would actually like to bring him in for a minute and introduce Carlo Ventura, who is a molecular biologist, and at the University of Bologna. And he just gave a lecture that I recorded for my class. I'm teaching a class, Vibration Matters. It's a graduate seminar. And we're looking at vibrations and frequencies in sound art and also in science and consciousness, just kind of a very expanded view. And the lecture that Carlo gave was just so exciting and inspiring to students. Alvaro is here, he's in my class, so he'll tell you. So just a quick kind of intro, and also to say that we are starting an alliance with the Veda ArtSci Center at the University of Bologna that Carlo has been leading for years now, along with his partner. So maybe just a minute introduction from you, Carlo, would be wonderful.
Oh yeah, Veda Science. It's an international network of artists and scientists, and the idea is to make a journey together. It's a transdisciplinary journey where artists and scientists can literally work together, design the experiments together, with the idea that motion, vibrations, sound, colors in terms of electromagnetic radiation, not only part of the cell biology, but they are also somehow some of the most important expressive tools in arts. It turns out that cells not only are guided by chemistry, but you can also see cell biology and stem cell biology with the eyes of physics. And so the motion of the cells, the microtubuli, the so-called cytoskeleton inside the cell, can be conceived as a sort of bioelectronic circuit where motion, vibration, maybe part of these vibrations are acoustic vibrations. So actually, you can deploy this motion as a sound, not always, but you can take sounds, you can harvest sound from the motion of cells, and also electric field, torsional fields, whirlpool effect of light and electromagnetic radiation from the cell may form a complex pattern where you understand that cells have creativity, the cells have intelligence, like the rest of the universe. So we're part of the vibrational patterning of the universe. And when you show this motions in terms of connectedness, in terms of light reflection or emission from the cells, from one side you can understand that based upon the diffusive features of the energies, you can target the stem cells where they already are in situ, in all the tissues of the human body. So this will hopefully lead to a form of regenerative medicine which doesn't need anymore the transplantation of cells and tissue, but is based upon the busting of our inherent ability for self-healing. From the other side, color, motions, electricity may become a new landscape for artists. So altogether, we're trying to see how any artistic manifestation may talk to the innermost dynamics of our biology. That's it, basically, in synthesis.
That is so wonderful. Thank you. And welcome to our collective, the newest member, the most esteemed newest member. And that brings me to announcing the October Artist in Residence, our first Artist in Residence virtual, starting the whole series, who for sure works with frequencies and vibrations. Bill Fontana. Bill, welcome, and thank you again for all the times that you have been so generous coming to talk to our class, to do visualizations, to meet us at the San Francisco Pier and tell us about your quarantine meditations. It's just been so inspiring. So the class is really looking forward to having you come and visit. And thank you again and welcome. Maybe you can say a few words.
So Victoria, thank you for inviting me and bringing me into this amazing community of artists and scientists. And I'm also spent a lot of my time exploring vibration as it exists in the material world and the physical world. My principal tool, investigative tool for doing this is a kind of vibration sensor used by structural engineers called an accelerometer. And I've been able to use some really ultra sensitive accelerometers to kind of really get into this invisible hidden world of sound inside of physical structures, and to kind of like in a strange kind of way reveal the sound of silence. I became really interested in this when I lived in Japan in the mid 1980s, and spent quite a bit of time in Kyoto, visiting some Buddhist temples that had these remarkable large hanging Buddhist temple bells that very seldom were rung. And I had the opportunity to mount accelerometers on these bells to kind of listen to how the bells were kind of ringing all the time, actually in response to ambient sound. And this is a kind of idea that is kind of very important to my work. I did a project in 2006 in London in which I installed a network of these kind of sensors on the Millennium Bridge and turned the Millennium Bridge into a live musical instrument. I did a project last year putting accelerometers on 3,000-year-old giant sequoia trees in California, and was really astonished to discover that the sound that occurred in these giant trees was actually they were actually, figuratively speaking, the trees were listening to the motion of a river in Sequoia National Park. So you would hear the rhythm of this large flowing river with the tonal timbre of wood. So in my involvement in this group, I want to share kind of my ideas and examples of my ideas with this kind of work, and also to maybe suggest some ways that students can explore this phenomena themselves.
Thank you so much. I cannot express my gratitude enough to you. You've devoted so much time just voluntarily. It's been beautiful. And people say, what, Bill Fontana? So you've got quite a reputation, as many in this room. We're seeming to go a lot into medicine, especially in the time of the pandemic. I think it's really important for artists to be involved on many levels. So I will introduce Patricia Nicknacks, who is at the University of Washington, and she has been collaborating with us for a long time. She had an exhibition in our gallery, workshops. We did a symposium together on brain and arts, and we cross over in Leonardo Art Science Evening Rendezvous many times in New York or here. Well, she was actually named just recently by us as the first fellow in medicine and media arts. And she will make these connections for us. So I'm sure she was super excited to hear Carlo's little introduction. Patricia, give us a few words about what you're planning to do.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Well, first of all, it's so excited. I'm so excited to see everybody here. And Bill, you and I met years ago when I was living in San Francisco. We met through, I think, David Ireland when I was teaching at the Headland Center for the Arts.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, and of course, yeah, so it's wonderful to see you. And I also used Temple Bells in my installation at the National Academy of Sciences when I had a solo show there in 2006. So we have much to speak about there. And Carlos, wonderful to meet you. I also teach in medical humanities. And so the University of Bologna features very prominently in what it is that we teach. So thank you for having me, and Victoria, thank you for having me. And just a little bit about myself. I'm at Washington University, St. Louis, and I have affiliate appointments, a new affiliate appointment in the School of Medicine in a new Center for Ethics, the first time that they've really had a kind of Center for Ethics in medicine. And I also teach in medical humanities here. I'm on the executive board of a medical humanities program that brings artists together with humanists. We teach a lot about the ways in which art and visualization have actually in the past been used to drive the advancement in medicine, and how, you know, how you can see through these artworks that the advancement of medicine is anything but value neutral. So it's a very exciting territory. And I'm also a fellow in the Institute for Public Health here. So I think there will be many exciting connections and crossovers, Victoria, that we can make moving forward, not only through the humanities and through projects of interpretation on medicine, but also through the medical school itself. So I'm very excited and look forward to having many more rich conversations with all of you.
Awesome. And that brings me to Aysen, who is coming to us from Texas. Aysen and I first met in New York when I was visiting professor at the Parsons New School. And then I recruited her to the Empowerment Informatics program at the Scuba University, where I was doing advising for PhD students. Aysen and John Brumley, who you also hear from, did their PhD in scuba, and she was very interested actually in thinking of device art in relation to medicine and disability. So it's so great to see you. She's been incredibly active during this pandemic. We did a particle interview with her as well, if you're interested to hear more. And I'm actually curious to hear a little bit more about what you've been up to, Aysen. So hello and welcome.
Hi, everybody. I'm so fortunate to join today. Thank you for inviting me, Victoria. Yeah, I'm Dr. Aysen Karachasin. Like Victoria said, I did the PhD in human informatics at the University of Scuba, and I kind of tried to create a concept of assistive device art, mixing device art and assistive technology. And now I work at the University of Texas Medical Branch, where I'm leading a medical fabrication lab. As she said, we're very active during the pandemic. I've been making an emergency use resuscitator system, essentially a ventilator with hospital equipment, using an ambu bag and a blood pressure cuff, and actuating it with air and vacuum from patient rooms. And we actually got funded. So we're going to be able to go through the medical, through the animal studies, and then hopefully go through the FDA. It seems that we don't need ventilators as much as we thought at the beginning, seeing the Italian, how it affected Italian pandemic, and, you know, the cries for help for more ventilators. So we started working on that, but thankfully here in the US, we haven't had that need. However, it's always good to know how to make an emergency ventilator. So we're continuing with the project. And yeah, we've also been doing more humanities-like projects where we are taking portraits with a local photographer to make an archive of our frontline workers, as well as putting them in the rooms because patients are dying alone. They're not able to get visitors in. And the only human contact that they have are these mummies of plastic, essentially, because of all the personal protective equipment. And so we're trying to humanize the very clinical and sterile environment of a patient room. We're also making vinyl stickers for the face shields for pediatrics. So we put like a monocle and mustaches and so on, so that the kids don't get so scared when they see these medical professionals that are, I call them plastic mummies because that's what they probably seem like to the children. And, we do all kinds of work there. I have my fingers in so many projects there, but I've somehow managed. We're doing a cerebral spinal fluid sensor and working with the Cryo Lab. I'm making also a mold that we hope to be sorry about that, that we hope to be a template and a standard for in vitro cells when they're doing research for regeneration, cell regeneration for burn patients. They usually have to make cuts, and so they want to make a standard template so the cuts are the same size and it could be measurable. And so we're working on that. And
Amazing.
yeah.
Amazing.
So things like I don't even have the time to tell you, but I'd love to connect with a lot of you. I'm also doing a lot of art myself, and I come from art into the sciences, so I'm extremely interested in the frequencies and sound art. I have a big community of sound art here in Houston that I'm part of, but yeah, thank you very much. I'd love to connect with all of you.
Great. Aisyn, can I just say how proud I am? I am like, sometimes when you're teaching, you feel like, oh, and then you get results like this and you just go, oh my God, this is so amazing. So congratulations and keep going. So back to some of our, to keep expanding the network, Daniela Brill Estrada, I met in Vienna, and she is in Vienna, but she's originally from Colombia. And I saw her work at the Museum of Natural History that was so amazing, where she literally shifted the whole idea of carbon. So Daniela, are you able to tell us a little bit about Sur Atomica that's based in Bogota, Colombia? And
yes.
Hi, how wonderful that
I'm here. Do you hear me well?
We hear you perfect.
Perfect. Thank you for the invitation. Yes, so I'm Daniela. I'm also an artist, and I met Victoria, like you said, a couple of years ago here in Vienna. I have been collaborating with many scientific institutions around the world for some years now. For example, I have been collaborating with CERN since 2016 for my master thesis, and which I did last year with this topic of carbon that Victoria was telling you. And for the last 2 years, I have co-directed Sur Atomica, which is a project that wants to open a creative space for artists. We started with Colombia and with Latin America, and then we expanded to the global south, and now the network is kind of global. And we had our first residency at CERN with we were 10 Colombian artists at CERN for 2 weeks. It was last year. And this year we wanted to do our festival in Bogota, but because of the pandemic, we had to do it digital. And now, like 2 weeks ago, in the beginning of October, and we were lucky enough to have a talk by Victoria, which was really amazing. And all the events, you can see them online. We had talks by many CERN scientists like John Ellis or Omar Zapata, who is a Colombian engineer. And we had talks by amazing artists who are collaborating with us from all around the world. And I'm very, very happy that this project is now also officially collaborating with you, Victoria, and your program. And me, myself, as an artist, I'm also extremely happy and honored to be here and to listen to what you all do. And yes, I'm super happy about the connections this is going to create.
Thank you, Daniela. It's so great to join. Actually, it's really important that we expand more into South America. So we're really happy to have you. So the last person I will introduce, and then briefly everybody, because we have little time, is Siddharth Ramakrishnan, who is a neuroscientist or neuro art scientist, I should say. He's a professor at Puget Sound, and I met him when he was postdoc here at UCLA. Welcome, Sid.
Hi, everyone. It's lovely to see a lot of you. Victoria and I met at one of the North-South mixers way back when it was starting at the UCLA. I was on the South campus in the medical school and as a postdoc, and was one of the few people who was in the first North-South mixers. I'm very excited how long the center has come. And I've been working a lot with Victoria on a few projects, especially the Hawk Zodiac dinner parties. And then also we've created projects on the dog knows about the sense of smell of dogs. But through it, I've realized I've become a better scientist and also recently more of a science artist, where I've launched a deck of tarot cards based on neuroscience. And now that's moving on into teaching people about the mental imagery using tarot cards and kind of combining the science and art of both. So right now I'm kind of taking a back seat from many things because we have a 3-month-old at home, but I'm really excited to be here.
So very briefly, I would like to just quickly run through all the wonderful people that are here, and definitely Danielle Ciambeda, I should say a word because she's been doing so much to expand this ArtSci network actively and really helping the ArtSci Center put the word out. And we have so many questions coming from the audience, so we just really need to maybe respond through the questions and introduce each other. So Danielle, do you want to introduce your program really briefly?
Yeah, just super quick. If you're not familiar with Leonardo, the International Society for Art Sciences and Technology, we support creative innovation at the intersection of art, science, and technology to create a better world for all of us. And we do this in order to solve some of the world's most wicked problems. And we do it through our different programs and our publications and our full cycle creative engine. We see our network is really our think tank. All of you, many of you in this call who have worked with me in our organization collaboratively in the past. And we have a lot of really cool stuff happening next year, but this is not about us. But I do want to say, one of the things I was thinking about, since everybody is in different parts of the world and ArtSci is doing so many interesting initiatives and programs themselves, is this idea of a coalition, right? So and if you kind of look at other sectors, they talk about really building the field and really kind of driving towards a mission, and they do it through a lot of coalition building. And I'm really kind of on that right now. And this is what I'm interested in and really thinking about as we're connecting art and medicine, which I think is critical and we need to be in front of it. And some of these other fields that we can do this, like thinking about it, not as like our program here or our program there, but what can we do together as a coalition and make that happen? So that's an invitation, and I'm happy to connect with you all, but I want to open up the space and
yeah. Yes, I have to introduce one more person, Kerry Cuckrow, who is director of Raw Science Film Festival, just to bring in film and movies into the discussion, which are also such an important way to spread the word and to actually be based on facts. So Kerry, just very quickly, and then we'll get audience members to respond to.
Hi, thank you, Victoria. This is, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, this is Kerry Cuckrow, and I'm actually working with Victoria on the design of our Raw Science Film Festival pink carpet experience. And the Raw Science Film Festival, briefly, is an annual event. This will be our 7th year, and the purpose is to elevate science and science storytelling so that our fact-based culture, fact-based experts lead the way in our culture. But we have to use the arts and visual arts and storytelling to really be able to engage people. So that's kind of the purpose and the mission. And one of the key things we're working on is redesigning the experience of an awards ceremony.
Wonderful. And you also have a podcast, right?
We do. We have the Raw Science podcast, which covers a lot of different things, but it does primarily focus on the storytelling of that science through filmmakers and artists. And we have a little bit of law and science as well, particularly related to the pandemic, which we have partnered with Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists and the U.S. Court of Federal Claims.
Wonderful. I'm so glad to work with you, and your persistence is really inspirational. It's been very difficult because of the pandemic. Everything just kind of closed down for movies.
This is true.
We have to figure out other ways, and a lot of people are asking about platforms. I'm just getting a question about, is there a platform for UCLA art students to connect with students in science? We are the platform. This is it. So you just sign on to our mailing list, reach out to us, let us know what your project is. And I'll actually let some of our team's members who are students answer that too. So I'll start with Alvaro. He's a graduate student in design media arts, and he has been active since day one. And you can talk a little bit also with our connection with the botanical gardens, which we just created. It's wonderful. Dr. Victoria Sork opened her doors to us, and Alvaro's doing his research there. We did a number of amazing installations during the last festival. So briefly, Alvaro, if you could answer to the students how to get involved.
Yeah, hello. Thank you for the invitation, Victoria. Yeah, to get involved, just reach out. For me, like the newsletter has been vital, just because that's where we post all of our different events and all of our different events happening all over the world. And in terms of getting out there, just reach out to people. Like that's my main way that I reach out to. I'm working with the Cali DNA group here at UCLA, and as you mentioned, the UCLA Botanical Gardens. And all these connections just like sprouted out of like participating in events, talking to people, emailing people. So yeah, that's my advice.
And Ansley, you're a sophomore or junior now, right?
Yes, I'm a junior undergrad at UCLA, and I'm a DESMA major, so design major. This has definitely been a wonderful experience because hearing about others' work and research, because I'm a designer, but would like to go into something more like data visualization. So definitely reach out. I think if you ask pretty much anybody, they'll know what ArtSci is, and especially if you're a design major. Yeah, and check out the email and the newsletter.
And then I'll call on a few ex-students who we've been involved with for quite a while. Deborah is a great example. Oh my goodness. She reached out. So that's a perfect example. You graduated, went away, and
yeah. And then wanted to teach Houdini at UCLA because you guys need it. And I've always been interested in the intersection of art and science and admired, Victoria, what you've been doing for years, and been loving what I'm hearing on the panel with this, the interconnectedness and discovery and how art and science can inform each other. But I am starting a school, Houdini.school, check it out. And was just so honored to be part of your Alien Stardust project, visualizing meteors and particles and dust and all of that stuff with the incredible team. Ellie Jitova was so fun to work with, and she couldn't make it tonight, but I just wanted to shout out to her. And yeah, thank you.
When did you graduate, Deborah?
2001.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
20 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So we have friends from exactly that age. I mean, I came to UCLA in 2000, so you're literally one of the first students that was crossing over, and I'm so happy you're back working on meteorites.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So there's a question about art science dialogue to responding to ecological crisis. This is actually the center of what we do. In fact, we've even reframed the whole idea of STEM. We never liked STEAM, we were being a little bit awkward about it because we felt like the A was just kind of dropped in there as an afterthought, which it was. But because there's a lot of parents who think it's important to have STEM and a lot of pressure from the outside, we started thinking about it and reframed it to actually be science, technology, ecology, arts, and mindfulness. And mindfulness being a very important part that we're addressing now in relation to ecology and arts. Science and technology, we're just assuming that mathematics and engineering are part of this. So we're kind of replace them with that. And I will call on Caitlin to talk about her work and just in general what we're doing as far as programs go. If you look in our program symposia, you will see last year we did art-based research in times of climate change. The year before that, we did feminist climate change beyond the binary. We have it as part of our workshops. We include everything in the idea of ecology. We have workshops, we forage on campus and look what's going on there. And having Caitlin come as an assistant to work and make us aware also of mycelium and how we are a part of this larger network has been amazing. So Caitlin, you can address this, I think, as an important member of our collective.
Thank you so much, Victoria, for that introduction. And yeah, for everyone being here, I think that what we're hearing now is like this very diverse kind of approach to how we're all sort of dealing with ecological crisis. And it's kind of like, it's spontaneous iterations that happen in medicine, in culture, in science, obviously. So I work with mycelium, with fungi, and I make work about remediation and healing damaged ecosystems through sculptural iterations that are made of fungi that have the potential to remediate or sequester toxins from the environment. And I feel really fortunate to be involved in this community, and especially in the realm of education. And I think that we're primarily, I mean, this sort of question is addressed through all these collaborations and all these amazing things that you're hearing about today. But also certainly in the educational component of what we do, that's kind of like the core of it, as Victoria was just saying. So we run a program every summer, kind of focusing on the next generation of Sci artists. It's for high school students who are, well, we've opened it up to freshmen, to seniors, high school students. And this tenet of sort of ecological restoration and healing and consciousness, eco-literacy, it's all really kind of the basis of our curriculum. And students they get blasted with all this kind of this really diverse information from a lot of people that you're hearing from today. Tons of information. And then they're prompted to make a project at the end of it all where they kind of tie it all together, make a creative art project, work collaboratively to address certainly environmental issues. It's kind of, again, like the tenet of what that program is about.
Mm-hmm. And we have Mick LaRusso here, who's been teaching in that program for many years. Pinar Yildiz also joined us. She's also a graduate from Design Media Arts who actually teaches now at UC San Diego. And then, hi Pinar. And then I'd like to introduce Yolanda Harris, who is at UC Santa Cruz and is going to be our next artist in residence. She works with actually environmental issues that would be important to just touch base on, in particular with underwater pollution and whales. And she's got a collaboration with Ari Friedlander, who's a marine biologist there at USC. So we definitely look for ways to address this as a very, very urgent issue.
Thanks, Victoria. Yeah, it is an urgent issue, isn't it? Yeah. We here in Santa Cruz, we had the fires come through very recently, and it brings it home very directly how immediate the problem is. And I'm just really happy to be included in this and have been working a little bit with Victoria over the last couple of months, just to share my recent work on underwater sound with, which is a science collaboration with oceanographer Ari Friedlander. And when I was really starting to get interested in moving beyond static hydrophones, underwater microphones in the ocean, and trying to feel how it would be if movement could be involved in that. You know, we walk, I have these sound walk headphones where people can listen to these sounds and walk, so we can move. What happens if we could get hydrophones that move? And I'd worked a little bit with sea gliders, remote robots, ocean-going robots, and I thought, what happens if I could find somebody who uses tags? So Ari Friedlander, who works here in Santa Cruz as well, happens to work here in the same university, is an expert in tagging whales around the world. So he's the one who goes out on the front of the boat with a long pole with a suction cup little tag with cameras and hydrophones and accelerometers and stuff on it, and pops them on the top of the whale when it surfaces in Antarctica. So this was the material that I managed to get from him, is video and sound primarily, and other sensor data. And we're working on trying to bring this to people in other ways beyond the scientific information that we can glean from this, which is just remarkable and eye-opening. How do we understand this? How can it help us understand remote environments that we can't physically access, that are beyond our scale, you know, beyond our ability to kind of be in, but somehow using these materials to make a more profound connection to these spaces? Because I think that if we can create presence and connection to those spaces, we can more readily understand them. We won't ignore them so much, and we will start to begin to find solutions, one hopes.
Wonderful. And I will pass it on to Ariel, who joined us also a few years ago and now is doing his PhD. And pretty amazing work, also has been always very generous with his time. Can you just say a couple of words about ecology and environment that seems to be of interest to the audience?
Oh, okay. Well, I actually already have my PhD.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
I forgot you had the virtual PhD. That's right. I forgot.
I know. I defended my thesis on Zoom, but
sorry.
That's okay. So yeah,
Dr. Simon, apologies, I stand corrected.
I don't care about the title, but I do technically have the union card to do research. So anyway, I'm a postdoc over at UCLA in the Institute of Environment and Sustainability. So my background was doing over at USC, I was doing research in ecology, a bunch of different projects, but like looking at developing new techniques for monitoring the health of watersheds, looking at the role of light pollution in ecosystems, so particularly coastal ecosystems, and how it influences where species tend to show up. And then I've been doing also work with the eDNA group at UCLA, looking at using DNA just in soil from things that are just constantly being shed off from organisms, and trying to reconstruct what ecosystems look like just from that, and then try to assess the health of those same ecosystems using that technique. And I've also got to play around with stuff like aquaculture research at USC. So I got to do research looking at the gut microbiome of oysters, because I was working on developing probiotics for shellfish aquaculture. So I guess I got to check that off my list. So over at UCLA, I'm doing work in ecological developing new techniques for monitoring the health of ecosystems in urban environments, so water quality and terrestrial quality, in addition to some teaching. And so and in particular, I'm working on building out programs for the Sage Hill site on the northwest part of campus. So if any of you are interested in being able to do any work on what is surprisingly one of the few undeveloped spots of West LA. It's actually on the northwest part of the campus, is Sage Hill. And we're kind of interested in using it as a test site for a lot of different questions in urban ecology, just because it's sort of like everything got built around it, and then just by luck of the draw, it's a sort of was left alone more than anywhere else in the area. So
well, your input has been so invaluable to students who are interested in remediation and looking at environmental issues. Thank you, Ariel. I would like to give a shout out to Erki Huhtamu, who's my colleague in Design Media Arts, and who has been going with me and graduate students for years to the Bermand Foundation up in Santa Ynez, where one of the largest collections of kinetic art resides. It's a private collection. And the foundation has also been super supportive of the Art Science Center. So I want to shout out to them too. Thank you. But Erki can say a few words, but just to say that it's kind of an end of an era because the foundation is closing down physically and moving. So everything's changing and we're both sad about it, but thank you, Erki, for always being there to support that effort to show that everything we're doing is actually part of a trajectory and it's not new. And that's a really important input in media arts and technology and science in particular.
Yeah, so thanks. I will try to keep this very brief because I think we need also some time for some more questions from the audience.
Yeah.
But I think that, and currently I'm coping with problems like what many of you probably face as well, trying to teach 380 undergrad students online from week to week. So anyway, I guess that the issue that the Bermand Foundation and its unfortunate closure raises is this issue about which we also faced in the other sense, which is how do we give access to students and gain access to physical devices like scientific history of scientific instruments. What you see here is a Georgian, so early 19th century solar microscope with all the slides and stuff in the box, which is obviously something that's very difficult to demonstrate in this medium. But I guess that these issues, like how do we bring these lab experiences so to another environment and sort of like manage to somehow like still sort of like have a creative conversation which somehow like brings elements of this kind of tactile and physical experience, which I think has to do with this like our interconnection with these devices. I think it is one of the issues that I think I'm dealing with, and that's why I do find that it's really actually sad that the facilities like Bermand Foundation cannot last forever, you know. And but anyway, so these are the kind of things that I'm thinking about all the time.
Thank you for bringing in the historical aspect. And so we are out of time, but I will just like to shout out to some people we didn't have a chance to hear from. And that would be Adam Stieg, who's at the California Nanosystems Institute, who's been with the center since even before it existed. He has always been an amazing partner and supporter. He's waving to us. We have also not heard from John Brumley, who also been in design media arts and then moved on to do his PhD in the University of Scuba. And Amy Claire Hustis, who also is a graduate for design media arts, who's done amazing work and will do actually a panel at CAA. Let's see, who else? Oh my goodness, it's such an amazing group. Christoph Killian is in Germany. He's also our virtual artist in residence, and you will see his work if you sign up to our list. Ivana and Clinton are seniors in design media arts, and they're totally active members of the community. Mick LaRusso, I already mentioned, he's an amazing member working here with us for years now. Shilpa is brand new. She just arrived to us. She's actually a freshman. David Familian from the Beale Art Center at UCI, also a very good friend and collaborator for many years, curator, very active in art and science, probably the only curator that does this kind of work. Zainab, who is also part of our community and just finished her MFA or finishing at Design Media Arts. Pinar, whose work we all love and hope to get her over to give another talk, also a graduate from Design Media Arts. And then Sharona, who's a friend, and Anuradha Vikram, who is a great curator, and we're starting to collaborate on doing research on sounds in relation to environment and media arts and art and science. So this is just the beginning. Now that we have kind of tasted a little bit and we just really want to continue doing this, you can see how great it is, the mix of people. And this is probably 1/4 of people who have been constantly in some way acting and interactive with our center. Definitely want to welcome the newcomers and then also announce the next, well, first of all, I should say thank you so much to Jane McCarthy at UCLA Arts, who put this together, who was patient with this idea, because we were supposed to do a presentation and then question and answer. And of course we break rules, that's what we do. So thank you, Jane, for your patience, and also Billy for having to create all these Zoom links for everybody. Thank you. And everybody should join the next lunchtime labs that UCLA Arts are organizing. It's the Ideas Lab from the School of Arts and Architecture. They're doing amazing things. So that's next week, next Thursday at 12:30. And we'll all go check it out. It'll probably be a little more coherent than what we're doing. But I super enjoyed this, and I started with a smile. I'm ending with a smile because it's so great to see so many friends, and especially now that we're all kind of isolated. So thank you, everybody. And if you could just put your hand on the screen, that would be so great. All right, take care. Hands on. Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much, Victoria. And I'm just putting, as you mentioned, those events here in the chat, and I hope everyone will join us for the future lunch labs. Next week is Ideas with Professor Natasha Sandmeyer, and after that is City Lab with Professor Dana Cuff. And next Tuesday, we're also hosting another UCLA Arts event on art activism, UCLA alum respond to COVID-19. And that will be hosted by Chrissy Edmonds from CAP UCLA. And it's a pretty remarkable group of alums who are working in vaccine advocacy, designing PPE, funding opportunities for artists. So it's really pretty incredible work that they're doing. So please, it's all in the chat. Please sign up. And thank you again to Victoria and all the ArtSci members. So
thank you so much.
Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.